So today we are going to be doing a timing chain on a little Ford, and we're going to do the oil pump chain. That's the oil pump chain there. This one here must be the main timing chain. There we go, timing chain, guides, seal for the crank, won't get destroyed. That looks like a new tensioner. We've also got a crank sprocket in here somewhere, and new sprockets for the cams. So it's just going to be a day of fitting many, many wonderful, beautiful things. Off we go. Let's get it. There it is. Let's get into it. You might notice a few differences on this engine. This one here has an LPG conversion. So there may be things on this engine that aren't on yours, but the engine itself is exactly the same from factory. This would have come probably as a standard petrol and then been converted after. Disconnect that. We don't need to remove it, we're just going to leave it disconnected. First thing I need to do is just remove this little LPG bracket, which you likely won't have to do this. You can just get straight into removing the valve cover. So we'll just try and push all that back. Might just get a little bungee or something to hold that out of the way, and then we can access the valve cover. So we're just going to go around the perimeter of the valve cover now and just remove all the bolts and the coil packs. Just have to remove this little vacuum line. It's just got two little clips either side. So you just pop those out gently. That's it, and then just wiggle the line back. There we go. That's out of the way. It just clips over that ridge, so you just have to pop the tab out and you're away. Just going to remove these two little locating lugs. These are for the valve cover to locate on, little engine cover. And just put this in your memory bank that on this side here there is a ground wire on the post, so you have to put that back on first, then put the little lug on top. Now I'm just going to release the valve cover. I'm going to start from the outside and I'm going to work my way back into the middle. Oh, that one there. She came all the way out. Do they all? No, they don't. They do stay in. Oh, some of them seem to have come out, some of them don't. Okay. Just to make things confusing for everyone. Okie dokie. It's 10mm in this corner. Let's find the nut. Yes, there's a little bracket on there. See just here, I have to put that back. And then it's an 8mm underneath, as is standard. And that one there wanted to be completely free as well. Okay, will she just lift off? She will. How magical. Welcome to the valve train. So here we have our exhaust inlet, and then here we have our air inlet side. So this is our exhaust cam, this is our inlet cam, so this is where the air comes in, combustion happens, this valve opens, lets the exhaust gases out the back, and there are, in the end of these cams, there are a couple of little slots. We'll see them better later. We'll rotate that, we put a bar in there to lock the engine, and then we'll get it timed up with a pin in the underside of the engine, which I'll show you now. But essentially we're done up here for now. We'll go underneath and we will move on to the next step. So we're going to be replacing the sprocket on this engine anyway. This is a nice new one. You can see there's a very slight bevel just at the top. See where the light just catches it? Very slight. And then you can see here, you can see just where the light catches it, there's just a very slight bevel again at the top of each tooth on the gear wheel, or sprocket, whatever you want to call it. And now I'll show you the wear on the ones that are on the cams. So we can see in here, see how there's extra wear on the cams? You can see where the teeth have dug into the cams. And you can also see where there's like this extra beveling on the top, and it's also going quite sharp, whereas on the new ones they're basically pretty smooth. And you can see there's like a lot of extra flex from side to side, so the chain shouldn't really be able to move like that. Even here on the sprocket it's got a lot of movement, so this is kind of danger territory. Once they get like this, it is possible that they can eventually jump a tooth. So sometimes it's not just the chain that starts rattling, but also there's damage elsewhere, so it's good to inspect things and make sure you're getting all the bits that you need. So just going to remove the wheel, and I've just put a little bar on the brake pedal to hold the wheel steady. Obviously you could do that before you could break these loose before you jack up the car. I just forgot. It doesn't really matter. If you jack it up and you forget, just chuck the bar from the jack in on the brake pedal and you can still break it loose. You'll be fine. You can always use an impact gun if you have one. Now we're going to remove the inner wheel arch liner. Starting with these. Missed this one here on the bottom. It just holds in the under tray and the wheel arch liner, so we had to remove that one there as well. There we go, that's good. So you don't need to remove the whole wheel arch liner, you can just tuck it out of the way like that, and we still get access in here to our crank and everything. So at the back of our under tray we've got a couple of T30s, one here, one on the other side. We've got one here on this side. We removed the driver's side one already, and then we've got a few at the front. 1, 2, 3, and then the under tray is like clipped in over the subframe here, and then there's a few little bits here that sort of like slide up over the subframe. So once you've undone the bolts, all you need to do is just pull the subframe towards the front of the vehicle and it will come out. So once I've dropped it, all I like to do is just turn it sideways and push it back, and I just leave the bolts in the tray, and now we've got access to the underside of our engine. We need this because we're going to have to put a jack under here to support the engine when we remove the engine mount, which I think we'll probably do next. So we just need to lift this up. There we go, and then we're just going to pull that forward and out of the way so we can get access to our engine mount. So we've got a bit of a tricky one. I don't want to undo the coolant reservoir expansion tank, so we're just going to fish down this 215mm holding the mount onto the body. So we're just going to loosen those off first. Wow, surprisingly tight. Try and not drop any bolts. Put that up into the side. And we'll try and move the expansion tank so that we can get to this side here. I think I might just be slightly off camera, aren't I? Yeah, you see it just there. That out. Now we have to change socket to an 18, I think these are, and then we've got these two 18s just here to deal with. And then again, we don't want to lose any of the nuts or anything, so make sure we put them back. I don't actually know what I've done with my 18 deep, so I'm just using a normal socket here, 1/2 inch socket. But as long as I drop it on before I drop on the extension, it's fine. If you're the same, it's not a big deal. It'll come loose. There we go. Don't drop the nut. Now we should be able to just lift the mount off. If yours has air conditioning, you will also have to deal with this air conditioning pipe like I do. You can just slide this mount, you can unclip it and just slide it to the side. And then we can fish out our engine mount. And once the engine mount is out of the way, we can put the coolant expansion tank back over here out of the way, and now we've got all this room to work. So you may be curious about how to remove this belt. There's no tension on it, it just goes from one pulley to the other. This is a stretch belt, and the way that we remove it is by using, that's right, your favourite thing, a special tool. I know it's not really a favourite thing, nobody likes special tools, people just like things that just work, but unfortunately we do need the special tool in this case. So just going to tighten down the wing nut, get that in there nice and tight, get that seated, and then all you need to do is turn over the crankshaft and push the belt off. Oh, rewind. There we go. Fish that off of there. Very good. And there we go. Simple as that, if that was simple. So we have another belt, and then we have a tension here at the top, which is 17. And all we do is we just push this back. See how that moves? We just push it back, and then we can slip it off the crank. So I'll show you that from underneath. So I find it very tricky to film this, but basically what you want to do is get a pry bar in between two of the bolts and then crack one loose, and then just rotate the pulley and just keep doing that until eventually they're all loose like this. I just did it with a spanner, they're not tight. They're not very tight at all. And then you can just pull them all out. But you have to remove this coolant pump pulley to get some of the bolts in the chain cover. There we go. Just lift that off of there. And now we've gained access to these couple of bolts that are just hidden behind it. So what we want to do now is rotate the engine around. We're going to start locking it up now. And there's a little pinhole here, and we want to locate this around about 45 degrees from the bottom here. So we kind of want to, this is the bottom, kind of want to bring it to around about here, I'd say. So anywhere in here would be fine, doesn't have to be exact. It's just so that we don't go too far past where the pin's supposed to be. So we'll take ours round to around about, I reckon around about there-ish, maybe? I think that'd be fine. I mean, this pin here hole lines in with here. We're not going to line it up just yet. What we're going to do is we're going to remove a blanking plug from back here and put in our timing pin, then we'll rotate it the rest of the way. This bolt here is where our timing pin is going to go. So just break that loose. There we go. And hopefully we can just, it's right behind the drive shaft, so it can be a little bit awkward to get to. But once it's loose, it should come out relatively easily. Might actually need a little bit more spannering. Oh yeah, now we look like a professional. Look at that. So just pull that out, and now we can pop in our timing pin. Well, thank goodness we don't have to remove the drive shaft to get the pin in. There we go. in there. I'm sorry that it's so tight on space. Difficult to see what's going on. But basically what we're going to try and do is just get this in here, finger tight. There we go, that's good there, like so, finger tight. And now we can rotate the crank around until it reaches top dead center. Okay, let's just line this up now. There we go, look at that. Bam, just hits it right on. And then when we look very carefully through our hole here, we can see that it's lining up perfectly. That's good news for us. Now we can see if our cams are going to lock up. There is a bar here that slides into the back of the cams, so we just want to slide that into the back of the intake cam. And then we also want to get that into the back of the exhaust cam, which isn't quite going at the moment, which is not super unusual, especially in a chain that is stretched. So we're just going to try and see if we can just tease this cam over just a little bit with a wrench. And there we go. So now she's locked. So we just want to make sure that our locking bar is properly installed in the back of the cams, and that the crank pin is fitted correctly. And that's it. The engine is now locked and we can just continue with disassembly and get the old chain off. So we've got a load of 8mm bolts down here. We've got 1, 2 at the top, and then there's 2 just there by the water pump side by side. 1 just below the water pump, not sure you can see it from here. And then on this side here, pretty much the same thing. We're just going to follow the timing case all the way down. You can tell where the timing case splits from the block or from the head, because there will usually be sealant coming out like that. And you can see the crack, can't you? Just there. So all we're going to do is just separate that from the head and from the block all the way down to the bottom. And part of that is going to be removing some of these larger bolts just down here with the engine mount. And I think there's one further down on the bottom as well that we'll have to undo to get this thing separated. So just from the underside we can see we've got this wiring harness here, and then a load of 8mm bolts at the bottom by the air conditioning pulley, and then we've got one big bolt just up there, a few and then more 8mm basically. Just be careful you don't undo the ones for the water pump unless you're replacing it. Just make sure you distinguish the difference between the two from the top and then from the bottom as well. And then that's it for this side. And then we'll do the same on this side here. We're just going to remove all of the cover bolts there, and also part of that we're going to have to remove this this crank sensor as well. It's a pickup sensor to get all these bolts off and get the case off as well. So using this special crank holding tool here, we're going to apply pressure this way on the crank holding tool, and then we're going to pull our bar this way, and then we're just going to try and break them loose, break the bolt loose. There we go. Make sure we get that out of there. Right, let's try and get this. Oh yeah, look at that lighting. Just see if we can just pull that off there. Oh dear. Well, that's irritating. We're gonna have to pull this off of here. You have to be very, very careful. Don't just chuck a pry bar on here, because there's these little teeth here of the crank wheel. Do not damage the teeth for the crank wheel when you get this off. You have to be very, very careful. Just give it a few gentle taps and see what happens. Not even budged a little bit. So if you're going to do what I'm doing right now, be very, very careful that you don't damage anything. Well, it's not the best camera shot ever, but I'm trying to show you how this thing comes off. Come on. Okay. You have to drop the engine a touch to get this off. There we go. Okay, let's remove this timing case. Okay. Move that one out of the way, and then we'll just pop these two here back in for safekeeping. Don't want to lose them. Down below. Now we just need to move up top and remove the rest of the 8mm, and then we'll move on to some of these big bolts like this one here. So just remove every single different 8mm bolt, and then we've got a few different ones. We've got an 8mm up here, 10mm, sorry, up here, which is significantly tighter than the 8mm bolts. Once it comes loose though, it seems to come out just fine. Yeah, we'll just wind that out the rest of the way. And then we've got these engine mount bolts here to remove, which look like 13s maybe or something. So we just want to remove these engine mounting bolts, 3 13mm, which also go through the timing cover. There we go. And then we could probably just remove these the rest of the way with the socket. Of course, you can do it by hand if you like, but that was taking a little bit too long for moi. So we're just going to use the power tool. There we go, and then one more bolt below. And there we go. Now we can remove the timing cover. So with every single bolt removed, it's just time to separate the cover. So I'm just gonna, there's a little engine eyelet here. I'm just gonna use that as a fulcrum point to try and pop the rest of the cover away. There we go. That's it. Now that it's started to separate, we'll just carry on working it until it comes off. Aha! I have missed a bolt. Looks like I have to remove one of the tensioner bolts. So we have one bolt just down here on the front of the tensioner that goes into the timing case that we need to undo, which I missed. It's a 10mm. Tensioner bolt. Have I forgotten another bolt? Probably. Pretty sure I have got everything. I think I just need to be a bit more vigorous with it, maybe. Ah, there we go. There we go. Just need a little bit more aggression. You just try to be extra careful so you don't damage anything or screw anything up. Right, I think we're going to have to go down below and fish that off with the crank. There is a little seal around it, so we'll go down there and see what we can do. And there we go. Right, now we'll just lift that up from the top. So there is our timing chain. There is our timing chain cover. Not a big deal. Pretty easy actually, these as far as chains go. And now we need to do is remove the old chain and then fit the new chain, and away we go. I mean, the engine's already locked, you can't really go wrong from here. As long as you've got your crank pin in down there, as long as you've got that locking bar in there, the engine will be in the right position. So, happy days. So I'm just going to remove the timing chain tensioner, which is held on with just a couple of 10mm. You might want to lock yours first. I mean, you can always do it in a vise, not really the end of the world. I just had to pull mine out of there. The chain will then go slack. We can then remove it, and we can then remove all of the guides. going to wind these out by hand. There we go. There's one bolt. So just removing the last bolt from the automatic tensioner. There we go. There's both bolts out. Now, why was I trying to use a hammer for something for which a pry bar was clearly designed? So let's just, there we go, pry that off of there. Lovely job. I think that timing chain guide there just lifts off now. Pretty sure. There's no bolts holding this one here in. No, there's not. Lift that one there off. Actually doesn't look too bad, to be honest. Doesn't look as bad as I thought that it would. And now we can basically just lift the chain off. Generally you would like loosen off the sprockets and then lift the chain off with the sprockets. It doesn't really matter which way you do it. We're going to have these sprockets off anyway because we're replacing them. In any case, you would have to loosen them to fit the new chain. So we'll get this other chain guide here off next. Yeah, not very tight. Try not bust my torch. There we go. Wind those out, pull that guide off. Just get this last little bolt out. Oh, there she comes, I think. And then there we go. That is our other chain guide, which also doesn't really look too bad. So pop those up there for now. Okie dokie, so what I want to do is try and counter hold this. We do have the locking pin in there, but we don't want to just rely on that. There we go. And we'll do the same on this one here. So you just want to push forward on that a little bit. Ooh, wrong way. I meant, did I say? Pull towards ourselves with our right hand here. And then we want to push with our other hand, seat your socket properly. There we go. Now we can have those sprockets off. Sorry for all the bouncing around and everything. These cars are so tricky to film because like you've literally, I can't even fit my hand down there. It's like literally less than the width of my hand. Right then, keep the bolt and the washer and everything all together. Just remember the side with the relief goes against the cam. The flat side faces outwards onto the washer. There we go, both sprockets off, very good. So we have another tensioner here, which is for the oil pump, which we are going to remove. Am I going? Oh, I'm tightening. I always do that. Doesn't matter how long I've been a mechanic for, I still do that from time to time. There we go. It is coming out really, really easily. It's just because it's so oily. It's really hard to get some grip on it. Ah, there we go. There we go, right. So as you can see, this hooks around this bolt here. So this bit here hooks around that bolt, and then it basically applies tension. And that's how that works. What I am going to do for the time being is just pop that bolt back in there for now so it doesn't get lost. And then you can remove or can you? Or do you have to have this pulley off as well? Maybe you have to have this pulley off as well. I think that you do indeed have to have that off, which involves counter holding. Yeah, okay. That's a little bit lame, so I assume they just slide on together then. Right, 1 second. So if you're not renewing this part of the chain, I probably wouldn't recommend doing what I'm about to do. But since I'm renewing the chain and the sprocket, well, both of these sprockets, this one and this one, I don't mind about them getting damaged, so I'm just going to pop a pry bar in there to lock it. There we go. If you're not renewing them, I would strongly recommend that you don't do that. There we go. And now we can renew both these at the same time. There's a little washer here on the front that we're going to renew. And I think, is there one on the, yeah, there's one on the back as well, which we're going to renew as well. Very good. So that is completely dismantled. Now all we need to do is reassemble.